Board of Trustees of Seguin ISD on April 4th, 2017 at 6:30 p.m. This is a board workshop. We're located at 1221 East Kingsbury, Seguin, Texas. Mr. Secretary, do we have a form? And one electronically.
Oh.
So we do have a form.
Well, it's not over. Hi.
Okay.
So we definitely have one.
At present, Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Flores are not present. So we're going to announce that this meeting of the Seguin Independent School District has been duly called, and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.043 of the Texas Government Code. Dr. Berger, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, one indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Now we can all take a moment of silence. Thank you. So next on our agenda is audience with the board. Did we have anybody sign up? No loss here. All turned around. And please note that Mr. Jenkins has arrived. So the Seguin ISD Board of Trustees designates the time for audience participation at the beginning of each meeting to hear persons who desire to make comments in accordance with board policy, BED local. Those wishing to speak shall sign up before the meeting, stating their concern or noting the agenda item. Audience participation is limited to 5 minutes. If there are more than 5 persons in an audience, they shall appoint a representative, and the board shall not deliberate on any subject that is not on the posted agenda. So, Mr. Boxey.
Do I just stand back?
There's a mic over here in the front.
Oh.
Good evening, Mr. Stevens.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Tonight, you are continuing the beginning of searching for a new leader for the district. And many of us view this as probably the most important responsibility that you as trustees have among the many responsibilities that you have. This morning, I sent to you a list of challenges that Educate Seguin had developed at our previous meetings. Whether you've had a chance to look at those or not, I'm unsure, but it's a lengthy list. And educators in this district agree that these are core issues for our district. And they also agree that we can only successfully address those issues if we have a leader with the vision, the expansive vision to educate the population that we serve, which is, by all accounts, a challenging population. So the first step is selecting a search firm to help us find that leader. Which one is best? I have no idea. As I think about this, I will simply say, I'm sure there are many people in this state, in this nation, in this community, who can do a competent job of leading the district. But I argue that that is not what we need. We need to find that person. That one person with the expansive vision that is required to succeed in educating the students that we have here. Too many of them are falling through the cracks, not being successfully educated. It's going to take outside the box thinking. It's going to take the ability to build strong partnerships with other parts of the community. It's a daunting skill set. What does that person look like? I don't know. I'm sure that all of the firms that you're considering are competent. I would simply say, and I don't know how to do this, that you need to try to find the firm that you think can go beyond and find that person with the vision that we need. It's very non-specific. It's very challenging. But we need someone very, very special here. And I don't envy you the task of trying to find that person. So I will simply say that, as I have done every single day for the last 2 years, I will continue to and will be urging other members of the community to continue to pray for this district and for you, that God will help to guide that person here. Because I think we're going to need his assistance as well as all of ours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. All right, moving into open session.
Drop the mic.
We're going to interview with and hear presentations from superintendent search firm candidates. And I believe we have 2 on hand, is that correct?
Yes.
And we all have received information in your packets from the 2 that are here, as well as from a third, which was not able to be here tonight. So I think we could start with
Tasby's here.
Tasby, because y'all have to come the furthest, or go back. Okay, you have the longest drive, so you come on up.
Sure.
Good evening. I'm Butch Felkner. I'm the Director of the Executive Search Services Division for the Texas Association of School Boards. And I've been with TASB now over 10 years, conducted about 140 superintendent searches. Before that, I was in public ed. I was a teacher, assistant principal, central office, and superintendent of schools. So did all that. And but it's been a joy working with TASB, and I've been been traveling around the state quite a bit here recently, and a lot of movement going on at this particular time. But it is a pleasure to be here with you in Seguin. And our process is basically what you're going to hear from most of the processes. We do ours. We're the oldest and largest educational search firm in the state. We've been doing this longer than just about everybody. We have over just a little under 800 superintendent searches in our history. So we've been out and about for a long, long time. The first thing that we start off with is we have a planning session. We sit down with you and devise a calendar that works best with your what you're looking for and how quickly or how long you want this process to work. After that, we have what we call our profiling. We come into the community, we visit with folks, and that ranges from business to parents to staff to you as the board. And we visit. What we're asking basically is 3 simple questions. What's going well in the district? What are the issues and concerns facing the district? And then what are you looking for as an individual and a new superintendent? We develop those things, and we also have an online survey. So if folks can't be here, don't want to be here, we attach it to your district's website. No one in this district has access to that. It goes straight into our office. And so folks can feel comfortable about typing from their home or business or whatever. But our point is that we want to try to give everyone as much ability to participate as they want to. So we put all that together, we collect all that information, and then after that we set up a date to come back and meet with you as a board and share, here's what we've seen, here's what we've heard. And out of that, we devise what we call our qualifications and characteristics. It's basically in lieu of a letter of interest. And instead of them writing a letter of interest, they just address the qualifications and characteristics that you have looked at and you have approved. And so those become a part of the application process. So there's 4 components of our application process. It's our application and the Q&Cs, which are embedded in there, their resume, their transcripts, and their certifications. So all that has to be into the application in order for the applicant to complete the process. Okay, so it's a little bit more extensive than just turning in a resume or a letter of interest. So, we require a little bit more on our side. But we have a lot of good quality applicants that apply through our system because they trust our process and things like that. So after all the Q&Cs are developed, then we have the application deadline date. Once that passes, then what we do is we forward you the applicant's information. So you're basically seeing what we're seeing. The only difference is that we're going to have information that you're not going to have, because we're going to do a lot of homework behind the scenes that you're not going to see and you're not going to do, because we're doing all those checkings and looking behind and under the rocks and things like that, making sure we've got the right people in the right place and that we're providing you that information. So when we come down to an established date, we're going to come and we're going to meet together and we're going to go over all these applicants together. And you're going to, as I said, you're going to have access to those prior to our coming. So you'll be able to look at all the information. We'll all come down and sit down at the meeting and we'll visit about all the applicants that you want to talk about. And then out of that meeting, then we're going to devise, you're going to select 6 applicants, usually 6, it can be whatever number, 6 applicants to bring in for an interview. We set all those interviews up. We also in that meeting, we're going to be establishing your interview questions and going over the format of how the first round of interviews work. Okay? We have a bank of about not quite 80 sample interview questions that we use for interviews and things like that. You don't like one, you can certainly come up with your own and things like that. But we devise that and we go through set up the first round of interviews for the applicant. The first round is very structured, very formatted, and so it's kind of the first year of law school. It's kind of the weeding out time. And so we're going through those applicants with you. That evening, you're also going to earn 3 hours of board training credit, so with us. So that's another additive. So after that meeting, then you'll set up your interviews. You'll have your interviews with your, if it's 6, number 6, and then after that, then we'll meet together again, and you'll come up with, out of that 6, we're going to come down to 3 that you want. And the 3 then we bring back in for a second round interview. We encourage you to invite the candidate's spouse on the second round. We usually have a little social at the front end, and so they're kind of a meet and greet session, if you will. And then after that, the spouse usually leaves, and then the board takes the candidate in for the second round interview. Second round interview is more relaxed. It's more of a dialogue, conversational style interview. And so it's kind of where you're getting to know the applicant at this point and wanting to make sure. We also, again, the reason we invite the spouse is, as you can imagine, we want to make sure that the spouse is happy about moving. And because we don't want one being happy about moving, but the other one not being happy about moving. That just creates, you know what it creates. So after that, then we'll set up your second round of interviews. And those will be 1 per night. You'll visit with those folks, and out of that 3, then you'll select what we call our candidate of choice. Candidate of choice is selected in case you want to take a site visit to the candidate's home district. And if you do, we will make sure those arrangements are made. And then that would be 3 board members traveling to the candidate's home district, visiting with folks there. And then, if everything's good, you'll come back, and then the next night you usually vote to name the lone finalists. You wait the mandated 21 days, and after that, you vote to hire the new superintendent. So you say, well, we've done that before, we've seen that before. So what's the difference? Okay, the difference is we're the only search firm in the state of Texas that has personal knowledge of every single superintendent in the state. The reason we do that is because we have field service reps that travel all across the state of Texas. Craig Stockstill is your field service rep that walks inside the doors of your district. No other search firm can say that they have people that walk in the door of every school district in the state of Texas. Only TASB can say that. And so Say, well, what's the difference in that? Well, the difference is you begin to learn things over the course of many years. And doing that, you begin to pick up things on people that, they might look good on paper, but in reality, they might not be so good. And things might not be going so well. So that's what the information that we gather. And those field service reps provide that information to us. And the other thing is that the fee doesn't go back into our pockets. It goes back in to support Texas public schools. And folks, Texas public schools need support right now. And we're on the front end of the battle lines. And so the fee that you pay TASB goes to help, up the front as we support and try to hold back the things of trying to destroy Texas public schools. We want to keep public schools strong, and we believe that they are. And so that's what we do. That's the value-added difference with us. And so at this point, I can certainly answer any questions that you might have, and maybe clear up some things.
Okay, Mr. Jenkins?
How would you involve the community in the selection process?
Well, that's what we do in our profiling. We meet with all kinds of folks in the community. And
Physically meet with folks in the community?
I'm sorry?
You physically meet with folks in the community?
We're physically here in the district, that we're inviting people to come visit with us and talk to us and things like that. The old line was only for the folks that don't want to come. They'd rather fill out on their computer and not come up and talk to us. And so, but we actually have physical live meetings here.
And how do you pick the people that are coming to those meetings?
We don't. We usually open it up to everybody.
You open it up to
Anybody that wants to come can come. And so we have community, what we'll do is have 3 or 4 community sessions, then we'll have district employee sessions, and then we'll have a school board session. And basically, any sessions that you feel like we need to have, we can have. For example, when we did the Beaumont search, we had 43 sessions that we had. We had three members of our team there, and we conducted 43 sessions. Of course, they're large district, but those are the types of things that we do in the live sessions. And so it's good. It gives people an opportunity to come and visit if they want to, and they can't say, well, you didn't even listen to us. Yeah, we were there. We did listen to you.
What about for those people that work late and cannot attend a meeting and have no internet access?
We have them in the evenings as well.
Okay, well, regrettably, I know several people that work really late.
We probably won't be having them that late.
Can they write a letter? Or
They
something?
can. They certainly can.
So-
You're absolutely right. We can have them. We can have the survey run off, and they can just fill in the blank if they'd like to. It's also in English and in Spanish, and so if folks can, again, we try to cast the net as wide as we can to get as much participation in the profiling as we can.
Well, on top of your general public at large sessions, if we wanted to hold sessions where we pulled in individuals as board members for independent sessions, would you be able to do that as well?
As the gentleman said, this is going to be the most important decision you're going to make, okay? It's going to determine the climate of the district. And the thing about it is that we build the search, we don't have a cookie cutter type process. We build the search around what the board is after, and that's the way we do business.
When you have these public sessions, does your staff do all of the work to get word out to the community and to arrange and organize the sessions, or would you depend on some of the district staff here to handle some of that?
That's a good question. We actually depend on the district staff, and the reason we do that is, now what we do is we have a contact person booklet that we send to whoever the contact person who devises the agendas and creates those types of things. And all the agenda language is already past our legal attorneys there at TASB. And so they've said okay to all that, so all they have to do is just copy and put the agendas together. It also contains the profiling group thing. It has announcements in there, so they don't have to create their own language. They can come up with, they can just copy all that and send it into the paper or wherever it'd like to go. The only reason we depend on the staff is because we don't know your media outlets as well as you do, and how you can get the word out. And we can offer suggestions, but different districts do it different ways. And so there's no just real good way to do it.
Any other questions? Okay. John?
So the only thing that you're not providing in your search process is the actual legal aspect of the contract, is that correct?
We have our division, right next to us is our legal division. So anything that you need, we have our HR services, which will be providing you sample salary information, what's going on around the state. Our legal division is there to assist in any way we need assistance with. Now, we're not going to provide legal advice. That's up to your local district council. But we're going to, we have the contract stuff. We work through contract negotiations with the applicant and things like that when it gets down to it. So we have the full wide range things that we can offer.
Since we're a district of about 7,000, is there something that you do different for a district like ours versus one with 47,000 when you're searching?
Well, number one, it'll bring in a different caliber of applicant. 47,000 member district's going to be one with probably quite a few years of superintendent experience. But that's only the caliber of person. The process doesn't vary. The process is the same if it was a Houston or if it was a Seguin. It's just, what happens is just the profiling gets a little bit longer. When we did Houston ISD several years ago, we were there 2 weeks doing the profiling. So that's the only difference in that. We're just finishing up Bernie, and Bernie is, we did that in a day and a half of their profile, and they have 8,500 kids in it. We did Southside. We were there 2 days in Southside, here in San Antonio. So then over on the other side, we were doing Medina Valley. So we were there a day and a half in Medina Valley. Those are just some of the sizes that we did.
I believe Elena on the computer over here has a question.
Oh,
Thank you, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. John answered or asked one of my questions. So the legal fees are not included in your quote, is that correct?
everything's included in our quote except what we determined is if you invite candidates back on the second round, 100% of our districts pay for the candidates to come back on the second round, their expenses. And if you take a site visit with the board, it's at the district's expense. Now, I'm not sure exactly how the length, the breadth of you're talking about the legal fees. What we do is we go to a certain length to where we don't cross the threshold of getting into, the attorney work per se. But our attorneys, for everything that we provide you has been approved by our legal division at TASB. And we have seven actual school attorneys and 3 general counsel attorneys.
I'm trying to get a
Way too
feel
many
for
attorneys.
what other expenses we can expect to be responsible for.
I didn't hear that.
What other expenses could we expect
That's all.
outside of your fee?
Well, I mean, she's trying to get it, what she's saying is, okay, like, a search firm says they're gonna charge you $16,000 plus travel expenses. That includes everything from start to finish. The only thing really that you're not including is the actual contract, legal aspect of the contract, meaning filing and verifying that you're gonna go to you're gonna go to a certain point of that, but you're not gonna step over that part.
We have, we have our sample contracts that most of the districts in the state use for their superintendent. So we have that available to you, if that's what you're referring to. If it's to legally negotiate between attorney and attorney, then we won't do that. We don't feel like that's our place.
How many clients or districts do you take on at one time, and kind of along with that, like how many staff members do you appropriate per superintendent search?
That's a good question. We've had up this year up to 15 at one time. And we have 11 people on our staff that are working. And some of them directly, myself and my senior consultant are directly working, but at this time, we're down to about 3 that are active searches. So you don't just get myself and one other, Mr. Stockstill, you're going to get 11 people that are going to be working on the search. You're not going to see all 11, but they're all going to be working on the search.
Mr. Jenkins, you said?
Yeah. Well, the audience doesn't have this in here, but it says that the search is continuing until a satisfactory candidate is hired by the Board of Trustees. The superintendent leaves within 2 years. You'll continue to search for travel expenses only, no consulting fee is charged. Can you elaborate a little bit on what leaves mean, if they pass on, they die, or
It's
leave the district?
yeah, if they die, that would be one thing. If it's in a family emergency, like their father or something has they have to resign and move. But generally, we've been working with that, and we're your organization, and you are one of our members, and so chances are we're going to come back and do what's right for the district. Our Jim Crow, our CEO, would make sure that we did what's right for the district. So we've never done district wrong. Now, the reason we put some of those in there is because we've had to change some of our philosophy, because not to coin a phrase, but we've had we've seen a lot, we know a lot because we've seen a lot. And we're kind of like the State Farm commercial. But we've had to change that a little bit because we had one that went on for 9 months. And the reason is the board was angry at each other, and they would call a meeting, and 3 would show up, and the other ones wouldn't. So finally, I had to have one of those meetings with the whole board and just say, folks, we've got to move this forward, because we're not going to play games here anymore. This is too serious to play games. And so we're going to do this right. You want us, fine. If you don't, blessings on you. We'll move out of the way, and you can go on your own. And so we've done that in kind of a reasonable amount of time that we would do that, reconstruct that search. Because a search that goes 9 months that's too long.
Can you get a time, what's your average time for placement from start to finish?
The average time is usually 90 to 120 calendar days. That's from the planning meeting to vote to hire date. And we can massage that however it needs to be, but that's as the average, that's what it is.
And that includes the 21 day.
That includes the 21 days.
I'm curious about this site visit. At that point, does the other district know that this person is considering leaving? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
At that point, the cat's out of the bag,
Okay.
if you will. We ask that you sign a confidentiality agreement, which means once you receive the applicant's information, that you'll not divulge that to anybody till Gabriel blows his horn, and you know when that is. And that's about any applicant except the one that you decide to hire. However, when it comes down to that one that you selected, we inform the candidate that, confidentiality is over with you, it's important that you make sure that your board is aware, because you've got 3 people going to show up on the doorstep of the school district, and they probably need to be aware that these folks are coming. And so we leave that up to the candidate to make sure that that happens. But as far as board members, we kind of hold your feet to the fire, and that's why we have such a strong candidate group that applies to us, because they trust our process and they know that the word's not going to get back home. And so that's why they believe us. I mean, we're averaging right now between 65. Bernie had 67 completed applicants. Out of that group, 30-something of those were seated superintendents. And so we had quite a big group that was applying to us. And every one of them will say, we believe in what you do, we trust you. And so that's why they do what they do.
Okay, any other questions? Anybody else? Alina? Questions?
Forgetting the layout on the computer there.
Well, I did have one question. You mentioned that you know every superintendent in Texas. Do you also look outside of Texas?
We do. If you hire us, your search goes nationwide. Our sister organizations around the United States pick up your search. It's no cost at all. I'm the past president of the National Affiliation of Superintendent Searchers, which is nationwide. And so we frequently have people from out of state apply for jobs. And we'll have them from Illinois, Pennsylvania, to Tennessee, to Colorado, to Oregon, to California. And the thing about it is, though, you say, well, how do you know those people? Well, because I have colleagues that do the same thing I do here, there. And I call them, and they know their superintendents. And so they pass the word along. And I'll give you an example. I was doing a search up in Northeast Texas, and this one particular gentleman looked terrific on paper. And the board member said, we really like this person. Well, I called my colleague in Iowa, and they said, yeah, on paper he looks great, but he's shown up to work drunk twice, the superintendent. So I said, I remember when I was superintendent, I thought about doing that, but I was smart enough not to. And so I informed the board that, and they said, oh, boy, you look really good on paper. I said, see, that's why you hire us, so we check these things out. And so we've got people all over the United States. There's not anybody in the United States that we can't find out about.
Do you feel it's hard for a superintendent to come out of state into Texas to deal with all of our rules and regulations?
It's very different, very difficult.
Very difficult.
And the reason we don't see many except in the larger districts is because they're required to do more in the smaller districts. And but that's not always the case, but it's generally the case. In the larger districts, they have to be the social person, if you will. They have to be the political person that goes out, the political entities. In smaller districts, you have to do that, but you have to do a lot of other things. And the other thing, too, is Texas doesn't recognize out-of-state certification. So folks that are not certified in Texas have to become certified in the state of Texas. So we can assist them with that, but that's just part of the deal.
No other questions? Well, thank you very much
Well,
for coming.
thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it very much. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll wave at you. I can't shake your hand. How are you doing? Good, good, good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
We appreciate your time and travel down there.
Oh, not a problem.
Secondly, we have JG Consulting.
I'm bearing with me, I'll let us set up quick technology here. In the meantime, may I give you a copy of our presentation? Is that okay? Acceptable? Okay. So this is just the same deck that we're going to walk through tonight. Yes, of course. missing one of the trustees, right? I know it's there. And Ishmael.
I can take it myself.
Oh, okay. So I have extras here. So give me 2 seconds, folks. Set this up. And how much time do we have allotted? And be mindful of your time and respect, because I know it's a meeting hour.
10, 15 minutes, I think would be good.
Okay, yeah, we'll go through this very quickly. We're all set. My name is James Guerra. Thank you for having us, Madam President, distinguished members of the board. I'm the President and CEO of JG Consulting. We're actually Texas-based. Our headquarters is downtown San Antonio, on the Riverwalk. I would say that we're the only national search firm that's based in Texas. So there's a few other national groups like us, but we're the only one with roots in Texas. I'm actually not far removed from this area. I'm a graduate of Hayes Consolidated. I went to Texas State University, University of Texas, and grad school in Dallas. And to my right is my colleague, Dr. Guy Sconzo. Most recently served in Humble ISD in the Region 4 area, was there for 15 years?
15.
Yeah, so he's going to be my right hand in this work. It's part of what I consider our faculty, which is our brain trust. My teaching experience is very short-lived, so I often defer to Dr. Gonsko and our other distinguished faculty members around the country. So we have a number of folks based in Texas whom you will have some interaction with and others you might not interact with directly. But Dr. Sconzo and I will be the two to serve you in this process and to work with the community members and any external stakeholders and internal stakeholders for that matter. So tonight I'd just like to give you an overview of our process, the way we work, and more importantly answer any questions you might have that are pertinent to this process, because we recognize that this is a critical time for you, and our goal is to make it as seamless and smooth as possible. And so I would also encourage you, if you have time outside of this meeting and other opportunities, to connect with our references, which I included in our proposal. All of the trustees that we included there are open to taking calls and replying to emails, so I would welcome that opportunity. So first and foremost, I would say in terms of our mission, what truly sets us apart is our level of equity and the transparency that which we provide during the search process. I think those are all areas that are important, because over communication for you and the ability to convey what we're up to as far as the search is concerned is important for the community stakeholders and all of the community members who are interested in what we're doing together as a team collaboratively to search for your next superintendent of schools. So maintaining that level of transparency and having an equitable process through the 4 to 5 month process, determining how long it's going to take. There's going to be communication and ongoing meetings and tons of reciprocity when it comes to our exchange and how we work together. So I like to say that as far as our mission is concerned, those would be the 2 highlights for what we look to accomplish. And ultimately, the superintendent performance is based on really 3 things. It's how well the superintendent works and collaborates with you as trustees, the service they're providing to the internal groups, the staff, and at the end of the day, the bottom line is student outcomes, right? So it's the student performance, how well your students in Seguin ISD are performing, and that's really the tell of the tape. And so we are very cognizant of that. And so with that in mind, our guarantee is pretty simple. We offer a 2-year guarantee, very similar to what you just heard, but the difference for us is that we'll do everything in its entirety at no cost. Again, should a superintendent serve less than 2 years in Seguin Independent School District. And I will say that in our experience in doing this work, and I've been doing search work in the ownership of and under the auspice of my firm for 3 years now, prior to this managing another national search firm. In no scenario have we ever had a superintendent resign, leave his or her post, in less than 2 years' time. So we have an excellent track record, and you can inquire with our references too, and they'll back that up. But if that ever were to happen, that's our guarantee. And the two handsome young men you see on the screen are the two of us. So I mentioned a little bit about who we are in terms of our titles and our experience, and I think our experience is really what resonates most with folks. So I've been in the education space for about 15 years. I've lived in some of the largest markets in the U.S. serving in this type of role. I've lived in Las Vegas, Nevada, where Clark County School District is. It's one of the largest school systems in the country. Recently was in Washington, D.C. and worked in New York. So I've served the 5 largest school systems in the country in some form or fashion. And we've recruited some of the top superintendents in those systems as well. And I will say one of the other differences for us too in our intentionality around who we partner with in terms of serving in this process is very tight. We don't take every opportunity to engage with the school district to manage the superintendent search. We're very intentional with who we partner with. So our goal is to not serve more than 4 to 5 searches per calendar school year. And that's by design, because we want to make sure that you're getting the time and the attention you deserve, because this is a very important process. And I have a vested interest in being in this area, in the geographic location. I have friends who played football from high school at TLU. As I mentioned, I'm an alumnus of Texas State, and I actually was elected 2 years ago to the alumni board of the Hispanic chapter. So I still serve and give back to the community as often as I can. And just this past year, we did 3 searches in the state of Texas, and of course elsewhere too, but closest proximity, San Marcos Consolidated. We managed that search this past school year. McAllen Independent School District in the Valley, and Fort Worth ISD. The 2, McAllen and San Marcos, were both recruits from within the state, but the gentleman that we recruited to Fort Worth was from Phoenix. And so you guys asked a good question earlier, how does that reciprocity take and transference of knowledge from somebody out of state to Texas? It's actually very simple. It's not a tough process at all, and I don't really think it's a challenge. And Dr. Sconzo can attest to that, because he served as a superintendent in multiple states. And so getting your certification done, it's actually a very seamless process. Yeah. So, and it's not just the 2 of us. We have, I mentioned, faculty members all around the U.S. We currently have a handful in the Dallas area, a couple in the Houston area where Dr. Sconzo lives, 1 in Corpus. So we have a team that will be dedicated to this work in our collaboration working with you. So it's not just us. So I want you to feel confident and assured that we're going to be working as a team. But as far as the interfacing, working with the community members, with you, Dr. Sconzo and I will be your right hand and left hand in this work. So the process at a high level, I know I gave you a proposal, so you have it in detail, but in simplistic terms, we start with the planning discussions. So we'll have a kickoff meeting with each of you individually. So our recommendation is that we can meet even here at the boardroom or somewhere else within the city. We'll talk with each of you individually for about an hour. We'll discuss what it is you're seeking in terms of the qualifications, the details of the search process. And we'll just ask some very simple questions. That'll frame how Dr. Sconzo and I will work with the community, any external stakeholders, any internal stakeholders, and get your direction and get positive and reflective feedback on how to begin the process. So that's the first step. And then we'll start with the recruitment. Typically what we see on average is that the recruitment and application process typically takes about 45 days at minimum. So let's say hypothetically we get everything ironed out by the end of April. We could technically start May 1st with the application posting once we have the job description defined after meeting with all the community stakeholders. We can have it posted on the 1st, and by June 14th or 15th, we can close the application, we can start the vetting process, and then all of us together will work to identify the top candidates and just start the pre-screening. And during that process, you'll see that there's applicant screening. We utilize a resource known as Montage Talent. It's commonly used in private corporate America, but it's a way for us to engage with candidates in real time and interview them using a simple set of questions that you'll provide to us, maybe 3 or 4 at most. It's a short interview experience, no longer than 10 minutes, But what it enables us to do, it gives you a clear insight to what the candidate's skill set and experiences are. Because we're going to do a national search. We'll cast the net nationally, East Coast to West Coast, if you will allow us to. If you want a regional and keep it Texas-based, that's fine too. Because again, we're going to work for you, so whatever the direction is you give us. But generally speaking, most school boards will like a national search, but we'll defer to you. So when we start this screening process, the online interviews allow you real-time access to view all of the candidates' information. So if we get 75 applicants, all 75 will be given an opportunity to complete the online interview, and you'll have access and an insight to each of those candidates. So that way, there's no information that we're withholding, and what we'll simply do as we're getting to the tail end of this, we'll make a judgment on the top 10 and recommend the top 10 candidates, and then you'll have that as a group A, and group B would be the remaining balance, the delta of the others. But you'll always have access to all of their artifacts, whether it's a letter of interest, resume, their vita, references, all of those packets will be readily available to you, so we're not withholding information. And I say this because there's a misconception that, and this may be true for other firms, we don't work with a stable of candidates, so we're not essentially recycling somebody that we placed in previous districts. In fact, another assurance and guarantee that we make is that we will never, once we complete the executive search, ever call your superintendent for another opportunity. Now, we can't keep him or her from applying for a job, but we'll never go out of our way to say, excuse me, sir, or madam, would you be interested in this search? So that's another assurance. So you'll hear quite often that some of these other firms are recycling candidates. And I've seen it, and it's not just here in Texas, it's nationally. So we provide every assurance that we don't do that. So that gets us to the closure. There's a 21-day period, which I know that you're all familiar with. During that time, our recommendation is that whoever you name as your loan finalist can serve as a consultant during the 21-day period to get acclimated to the district, start working with you, just get a lay of the land, so to speak. And during that time period, he or she can serve as a consultant, and then when the 21-day period is up, you make the final announcement, he or she is ready to go. And they're already somewhat familiar with the internal operations and what's needed in the community. And so that's common. So I put in here 3 to 6 months. I would say of the 3 most recent searches that I mentioned here in Texas, on average 4 months is the time frame. So if you look at the kind of the hypothetical timeline that I included in our proposal, we could technically have everything completed by July, early to mid-July, with the intention that the superintendent could start by day 1 of the next calendar school year, or even earlier. So we'll work aggressively and urgently to help you in this process. We're very systemic in the way we work. So, you know, we've refined this over years, and I mentioned I've worked for another firm, and so I've learned a lot of lessons along the way, how to improve, and we're a full-service firm. The search work is a part of what we do, and it's what we're it's what we're well known for, I would say nationally, at least amongst the candidates in the districts we serve. But we also do strategic planning, we help with executive coaching, we're working with TEA right now around the Lone Star governance model. So our firm is the only one that has been working with the deputy commissioner to understand what that framework looks like. So that way when we engage with school boards, we can speak intelligently and help you in any other areas that might be of need. So we're the only group doing that right now. And then we're also the only firm that has an annual summit for career advancement opportunities. This May, we're hosting our career summit on the Riverwalk at the Sheraton Gunter Hotel. So we'll have a national pool of candidates taking planes, trains, and automobiles to come see us. We'll have superintendents sitting on a panel to give you a couple of names of those sitting superintendents. Richard Carranza in Houston ISD is serving on the panel, Juan Cabrera in El Paso ISD, Dr. McFarland in Lancaster, Tammy Campbell from Federal Way, Washington, Christina Kishimoto from Gilbert. So you can get a sense that our network is broad. I can't emphasize enough that our network is the strongest nationally, and my intention as the owner of the firm is that in 5 years, I want to eclipse all the other firms and be the largest nationally. And I don't have any issue saying that, because that is our goal as a firm, especially as a full-service firm. we're looking to be the largest. And it's just a matter of time. So I named some of the differences earlier. You'll see that I've highlighted a few of the organizations that we've partnered with. So you're familiar, obviously, with the locally based entities, the TASA. I understand that you have some representation that's with MOSBA. We were actually contacted earlier this week to help MOSBA recruit their executive directors. So we do other work outside of just the traditional school setting to recruit CEO-type leaders or executive directors, nonprofits, universities, city managers. Those are all types of work that we do. So this is what we're ingrained in, but our skill set is strong, so we're capable of doing that. And again, I mentioned our track record. So far we've been flawless. We're batting 1,000, something that we're very proud of. And we have a great team. I'll refer to Dr. Sconzo and the faculty often. I'll defer to them because they're the true practitioners as far as the operational underpinnings and what's needed to communicate outward to the community and inward amongst you, and making sure that we're all on the same page and working together as a unit. I'll be your direct point of contact. And so those are, at a high level, some of our differences. Now this is just a quick snapshot of candidate pool diversity, and I believe the survey was done a few years ago, but you can kind of get a sense of where some of the sitting superintendents are in terms of the years of experience, the gender, the race. And I only highlight this to give you the sense that there's going to be an equitable balance of both genders and diversity. So you're going to have a very strong pool of candidates to choose from. And this area is very appealing to many candidates. I don't know that you guys, you probably are aware of this, but what interested us, quite frankly, is that we've been getting quite a few inbound phone calls and emails from candidates around the country inquiring about the opportunity to serve here. And I see that as a tremendous sign. And so that has a lot of potential and upside for us. And that's technically what drew us to the opportunity, just with the outpouring of support you guys are getting. So I can tell you, with or without our support, I mean, we'll help any group that you choose to hire, but I think you guys would do quite well if you were to engage with us. All right, so the confidentiality agreement. We typically, I mentioned in our first kickoff meeting, when we meet with you individually and we go through our 10 questions, we have a simple confidentiality oath. We'll have you sign. We'll store it, and there'll be a copy here stored as well. We'll provide it to your board secretary. And it's again to protect you and to let us handle anything that's related to the media, the candidate disclosure information. If the newspaper has a question or if they want to interview you specifically, or if you want to defer to us, we're going to manage all of that. And that kind of falls within the umbrella of the confidentiality. Until the 11th hour when you announce your lone finalists, no names of the candidates will be disclosed. And so that's not only to protect them, but also to protect you. So again, just to recap, and then we'll be happy to take any questions. So we're locally based, we're in San Antonio. I mentioned some of the districts that we've worked with. We've done 40 executive searches in the last 2 years nationally. And again, by design, we'll do no more than 4 or 5 superintendent searches just so that we can give the attention and the time it deserves for each one of our clients. Right now in the state of Texas, we have 3 other opportunities with school districts, and I'll be fully transparent. Crowley Independent School District in Region 11, Garland ISD in 10. They actually just retained us, which isn't in the referral and the reference list that we provided, but they just retained us to find the 3 high school principals. And so their general counsel contacted us probably about a month and a half ago and asked for recommendations for the interim. So we provided the recommendations. Dr. Cron has been doing well for the last 2 months. The idea is we demonstrate a good, strong pool of high school principal. They have 3 vacancies that we're supporting. Once that concludes, we'll likely be hired. And then Frisco Independent School District. So those are our opportunities, just in full disclosure, so you know what we're up to. So our process in terms of the way we kind of manage the political climates of each of the communities we serve, we treat everything as a complex system. and meaning that you have a lot of interoperability internally, and then you have external groups. You have community members who are inquiring about where we are in the process. So again, we're going to be your catalyst, your channel to all of that. So you can feel comfortable and confident working with us to help manage all of that. Earlier, I talked about the 2-year guarantee, so that will stay intact. You mentioned we will never recruit your superintendent away. It's not our goal or ever our intention. The high quality recruiting channels that we'll work with, AASA, of course, they're the national entity for TASA, as you know. The ALAS group, the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents, both of those 2 directors who serve on that group are part of our faculty. Dr. Stan Paz leads the Senior Leadership Academy, which is the aspiring cohort. We work with them and we train all of those aspiring superintendents across the U.S. So we're the only group that does that, and that's Dr. Stan Paz. You can see a short bio of his on our website, as well as some of our other faculty. Council of Great City Schools, which is the large urban school network. MOSBA, I mentioned them, and then also, but not last, is National Alliance for Black School Educators. They also have a local chapter, which is TABC, and we also support their aspiring leadership cohort. Just last month in Houston, they had their annual meeting. I was invited to speak as a panelist alongside some of our colleagues in the other firms about the superintendent search process. So all of these groups that have aspiring superintendent academies, consider that a pipeline and a window into a good network of talent. Those are the groups that we work with. Some of the last 2, aside from Fort Worth ISD, the McAllen ISD superintendent and San Marcos Consolidated were both deputies in large complex systems managing 42,000 students. So the superintendent was in San Marcos, was chief of schools in Houston ISD. He had a responsibility for 42,000 students, and now he's serving in San Marcos, which has fewer students than you guys have. So just to give you some insight to the type of talent we have access to. So our roots are deep and our tentacles reach long and far. And with NAVSE, we've got these groups coming to our summit in May, and I would invite each of you to attend. You'll have an opportunity to network with candidates in person, get to engage with them, get an understanding of who they are, what type of skill sets, experience they have, and you can get some candid feedback from some of our other district partners. They'll be present. Last year at TASA Midwinter, we hosted an event during the conference and invited San Marcos trustees to participate. And their response was really great. They commented that it was the first time they've ever done anything like that. So we try to be a little bit more unique in terms of the way we put you in front of the candidates early, so that way we can all kind of do our vetting and our screening in advance of the final stages. So those are some of the differences. I mentioned our success and where we've worked. In the last 2 years, we've done 40 searches all around the country, from the New York State Department of Ed to Minneapolis, and of course here in Texas. Most recently, we were hired in Garland, and Salt River Schools is a district in Phoenix. They're one of the communities of Bureau of Indian Education, so they're an Indian reservation school district in Phoenix. And then there's our contact info, and I'll leave you with each a card of mine, so you have my cell phone, and of course my email's there. But we're here to serve you. I mean, we really look forward to working with you. We welcome the opportunity. Like I said, my personal interest is to help, because I consider myself relatively a hometown guy, because I went to Hayes and I have friends that played football here and really like to give back in any way that I can. And that was the same promise that I made to San Marcos and the other communities in Dallas where I've also spent some time. So it'd be a tremendous honor for me personally and professionally to serve you in that way and to bring the best quality candidates. And I know that Dr. Sconzo would attest to what I said. So we're here and happy and welcome the opportunity to serve you guys. Any questions? I know I rambled, but I wanted to get through it quickly.
Questions? Carl?
Elena.
Hi.
I always have questions.
That's okay. That's good.
Do you guys do anything as far as promoting community engagement, or?
Absolutely. So that's a fantastic question. So what we'll do during our our one-on-one meetings with each of you, we'll ask you a very simplistic question. Who in the community would you like us to visit with and meet with to gain an understanding from those individuals or those groups? It could be macro, which I consider a large group meetings, like it could be PTA meetings, it could be the parents, it could be staff, it could be students even. And then the micro are the small group meetings where we might meet with, let's say, the Texas Lutheran president. When we engage with San Marcos, we ask the same series of questions to their trustees, and the common responses were, we'd like for you to get a sense of what the community is looking for, but you should engage with Dr. Trouth, University president, some of the clergy, men and women in the community. We met with the Chamber of Commerce. We met with the mayor. So we do all of that. We extract all that data. We archive that. And then on top of that, to supplement that type of work, we have a third party that helps us with aggregating survey data. We do an online survey. And they have an artificial intelligence that's next to none. I mean, they're fantastic. And they work with school systems all over the U.S. And they will help us aggregate all of the online survey data for us to make sense of what the community is saying for us and to us. And we do that also too to protect the anonymity, right, of people who wish not to disclose their information. So we want to respect that. So those are just some samples and ideas of how we engage in the community. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And do you have an all-inclusive price, or do you,
Yes,
does your fee not include certain things?
Yeah, it's all inclusive, and I believe I included a statement there that's negotiable because we are locally based. You know, our intent is not, you know, to be quite honest, we're not very profitable when it comes to the search work. We do it more to serve and to give back. Like I said, that's my I statement, right? So it is all inclusive. I believe I quoted $15,000. That includes everything. The only expense that you would incur additional to that or aside from that is if you were to fly in candidates from outside of the state. That's incumbent on the district, and that's kind of the standard practice if you're familiar with that word. You could have an opportunity to interview via Skype or use our montage interface, but our suggestion is to interview candidates in person. So you could guess if you were to ballpark, I would budget for no more than $1,500 per day if the candidate has to take a plane, train, or automobile to get here. But everything else, our background checks that we have a third party, Baker Eubanks, that conducts our background checks for us. They're very thorough. They do work all around the globe. They're phenomenal. So all the other searches that I mentioned in Texas, they did that work. Each of the candidate profiles that we get in return for them, it's a minimum of 20 to 40 pages. So it's very thorough and in depth. They'll tell you credit scores, if they have unpaid parking tickets, you name it. They'll certify and verify their academic credentials, and we're going to provide that to you in a packet. So you're going to have everything digitally, and then you'll have everything in a 3-ring binder with each of the candidates arranged by a tab.
And that's all inclusive.
That's all inclusive.
One last question. Does your firm handle everything, or will you be depending on the district staff to do anything?
The only thing that we ever ask in terms of the handling of this process would be to post the online survey on the district's homepage. And that's really simple. So if the communications officer is willing to help us with that, we're going to create the online survey and we'll have the framework, the shell of it done. It's just creating the linkage on the site. And for obvious reasons, we don't have the authority to do that and the administrative privilege. But as far as everything else is concerned, we will do ourselves.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good questions. Any others?
I'm not really clear on, you mentioned the team and the faculty. I'm not really sure what you mean by that.
Yeah, so our faculty consists of folks like Dr. Sconzo, retired superintendents around the state and around the country that help us in this work. And when I say team, I kind of use those interchangeably. So we're all a team together, and we work as a unit. So there's part-time staff, there's full-time staff. I have team members, faculty, scattered throughout the U.S. Our strongest presence is Texas because our home base is here, but we have access to remote offices technically around the globe. We utilize a system that gives us office space access anywhere. So when we're traveling and we're engaging at conferences like NSBA just a couple weeks ago in Denver, I'm able to utilize certain spaces and interview candidates in person. And that's a key differentiator for us because, again, it's about acquiring the talent base and engaging with the talent that we may not even be familiar with, because even though we have a strong network, there's always a diamond in the rough that will come through our process that we'll get to learn a little bit better and share his or her credentials and their background with you. And that's common, that happens. And that's, I think, a great asset and an interesting dynamic in working with us.
Yeah, I might just add.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
all of the faculty will be involved in recruiting. If you were to select us, I'll apologize. You get stuck with me for the hands-on, up-close and personal work.
One last question, I'm just not clear. Did you already place the superintendent in Garland?
No, so they asked, so good clarifying question. They asked for recommendations for the interim, and that was our first step in the process. So she's currently serving. They just released their request for proposals last week. The intention is, because we've been hired 2 weeks ago to find our 3 high school principals that we'll have to go through the competitive bidding process like we are today with you guys. But the idea is that since we're already kind of entrenched there, we'll start there. So I would say, the timing is always interesting this time of the year because there's so many vacancies across the state. I'm sure you've seen that, there's roughly 60. But a good share of that 60 grouping is, what we would consider small to rural school districts. So there aren't many, fortunately, and I think the advantage is that, have the same student size population as Seguin. So that will help. But it won't deter us from recruiting top quality candidates. We have a lot of activity right now with our summit coming up, some of the other travels that we have. And, I mentioned we're a full service firm, so it puts us in a different light than the other firms because we're so engaged in different capacities.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Pleasure to meet you, and best of luck. If you have any further questions, if it's okay, I'll leave my business cards with you. Is that okay? Okay. And let me see, one last thing. So, and this is, I'll give this to you also. It's a formal invitation to our summit to give you an idea of who the speakers are and everything, but we'd love to have you participate if you're interested. Just reach out to me and I'll set you up with a registration and we'll be good to go. Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, pleasure. Thank you. Sorry, my hands were cold. Good to meet you. Good to meet you, sir. Good to meet you. Yeah. You want to plug this back into yours? Okay. Thank you for letting me use that.
Any discussion here in open session? Can we go back into closed session for a few minutes? So we're going to adjourn to closed session pursuant to the following section of the Public Open Meetings Act. Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with legal counsel regarding possible contract with superintendent search firm candidate. It is 7:39. Is that correct? All right, we're going to reconvene this into open session. It is now 8:20 p.m.
Madam President, I make the motion that we proceed with the selection of TASB as the superintendent search firm candidate.
I'll second that one.
A motion for Mr. Holt and a second for Mr. Jenkins. Is there any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. It's unanimous. Yes. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this evening. I think we had a productive night, and this meeting is now adjourned.